begin with metta meditation. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. Once again, with this metta thought in mind, let us continue our meditation. Friends, in the Dhamma, we all want to live in peace and harmony, and we all want everybody all over the world to live in peace and harmony. And that is why we want to practice metta as a very essential part of our meditation. Let us focus our mind again on our breath to get deeper understanding of the reality in life. When we pay attention, this is very simple beginning, but it goes very deep as we gain concentration and develop mindfulness. And therefore, the simplest way to start it is to pay attention to our breath. As we breathe in, we notice the breath touching the nostrils and expanding our lower abdomen and expanding our chest area. As we breathe out, lower abdomen contracts, the chest area contracts, the breath leaves the nostrils, and then as we inhale and exhale, there are two brief pauses, one at the end of inhaling, the other at the end of exhaling, and they happen so quickly because we are fully engaged in noticing the movements. Then we notice the breath is breath. We notice the breath. It is rising and falling. Then we experience a feeling of breath that also rises and falls. Perceptions, volitional formations, and consciousness. When we breathe in, feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness is one. When we breathe out, there are no longer the same feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness. So what we experience when we breathe in is no longer when we breathe out. Right there we begin to see the truth of life, rising and falling. When this happens, naturally mind gets into this rhythm and does not try to hold on to anything, especially during this practice. And then the breath relaxes, the body relaxes, the mind relaxes. When they relax, our breath becomes even more comfortable, and then the rigidity fades away. Resentment or anger we may have will no longer be there during this practice, and that is to be expected and very wholesome state of mind. There are loving friendliness feeling arises in the relaxed state, and then also we know that there are so many suffering beings, not only during this COVID-19, but in general, there are suffering beings, including ourselves. Then compassion arises to help us and them as much as we can. And then mind becomes more relaxed and spiritually active. Then our sleepiness and drowsiness fade away. And when we have compassion, restlessness and reward fade away. And then we, seeing all this, we become even more urgent, enthusiastic, and become very spiritually active and want to stay on the course. Then sleepiness and drowsiness fade away. Seeing all these positive results and fading away of the negative things, we have confidence in the practice, confidence in the Buddha who taught the practice, and confidence in the Sangha that join and sincerely practice with us. With this, there arises joy, peace, and that increases and gain happiness. All this makes the mind more and more calm and peaceful and relaxed, leading up to gaining concentration. When we gain concentration, mind still is very calm, relaxed, peaceful, sharp, and this sharp, calm, relaxed state can notice any subtlest changes taking place in our body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. That's all we have. And then noticing them rising and falling in the subtlest way, we gain even deeper insight that to see the truth as it is, to see things as they really are. With this note, let us continue our practice without verbalizing, conceptualizing, but just becoming aware of what really is dukkha pattaca niddukkha bhaya pattaca nibbhaya soka pattaca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. so too may all beings be. May, with this metta wish, let us spend the rest of this morning sessions focusing our mind on the answers to these questions.
Many questions this morning.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Bhante, the first question. In the note about the Kanjaniya Sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 2279, it says, quote, "This parallels the teaching that present karma is needed for past karma to be experienced." Could you please explain?
Present karma is needed.
Present karma is needed in order for past karma to be experienced.
This may be in note.
Yeah, it's in the notes in the sutta.
Yeah, because it is not in the sutta itself, but it must be in the note.
Right.
Present karma should be experienced in order to understand the previous karma and the future karma. Right?
It says, this parallels the teaching that present karma is needed for past karma to be experienced.
Yes. We have to, this is a commentarial material. The commentator believes the present karma is needed only in the sense to understand what one has committed in the past, because once we know the present karma, actually what we must experience is not the karma, but the results. The results of previous karma and the results of present karma in this life. We must understand how these karmas affect our life, how this life depends, life's experiences depends on our karma. They are, if we experience pain, that is the results of our previous karma. Previous in the sense that either in the past life or in this life, few days or weeks or years ago. When we understand this, this will be the pattern that will continue even in the future. Just as we experience the previous karmic results now, when we commit karma, similar karma now, the same type of results we experience in the future as well. And therefore understanding the present karma and the results of previous karma, understanding present karma helps us to avoid understanding the results of present karma, previous karma, helps us to understand what kind of karma we should commit now, so that we can avoid the same type of pain or suffering that we experience now in future. And therefore, in that sense, it is true.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
Next question. 2 days ago, you mentioned one gains the spelling here is Ghana, Ghana. Maybe she means jhana.
Ghana, yeah, ghana of seeing.
That means seeing.
Ghana.
Ghana of seeing his or her previous lives through the 5 aggregates, and one sees only those feelings of 5 aggregates. My question is if that only 5 aggregates that one can see and feel, then how can you explain the 550 previous lives that we have heard and learned about Lord Buddha? It clearly tells us what were the forms he had in those lives and what he went through as stories. Can you explain when in a childhood one explains his previous births in full formation if she can only feel see the 5 aggregates?
What is, I don't understand, gain the ghana. I think you may mean mention one gains jhana of seeing his. Uh, yes, lies through the 5 aggregates. Only those feelings of 5 aggregates. Well, when one attains jhana, when one gains jhana, not ghana, not G but J, H-A-N-A. Yes, when one gains jhana, that through the practice of meditation, one would develop a special ability to see the previous lives, and especially for his own personal life in the past. So the question is, you are asking, question is, if that only 5 aggregates that one can see fields, then how can you explain the 550 previous lives that we have had? Okay. No matter how many millions of lives, not 550, no matter how many millions of lives or trillions of lives or eons, lives for eons, if you notice, only after attaining jhana, you will see the form, physical form in each life, and you will feel, you will notice the kind of feeling you had in the previous life. You will notice the kind of perception you had in the previous life. You will experience, see the thoughts you had in the previous life, and you will experience the consciousness you had in the previous lives. This means only what Buddha wanted to show us is only these 5 aggregates we see in every life, and nothing else. You see all these things. Uh, Therefore, one life is no more different from the other in the sense of, in terms of 5 aggregates. That's what you will see. And in this life, when you see these previous lives, you don't gain any special knowledge, except you see in all these lives. In this life we have to gain insight. When we gain insight, with the jhana you will see all these 5 aggregates in previous lives. But in this life, you have to develop insight into the reality why you went through so many lives in the past. The reason is because of your ignorance and craving. Ignorance and craving. And if you Also, think in terms of I, permanent, eternal, non-changing I. You never find it in any of those previous lives. Neither do you find it in this life. All you see is these aggregates. So, and therefore, in this life, the knowledge of those existence simply helps you to understand how greed and ignorance keep keep you running through the samsara because of greed and ignorance. Uh, there is no beginning of greed, no beginning of ignorance, and therefore we keep repeating this life after life in the previous life. So if you want to teach children uh, about this 555 according to Jataka stories, 55 stories to children, children may not understand it very clearly, but they may not understand greed, ignorance, and non-self. But you can teach children the moral in every story that you tell them. In each life, how the Siddhartha or Bodhisattva, in every life, Bodhisattva was something very special. For instance, if he were born among elephants, he is the highest type of elephant, the biggest, more intelligent, leader. If he were born in among birds, he would be the biggest bird, the king of birds, and so forth. In every life, he was a very special person. So, whenever he committed something unwholesome, then the next life he was born in a lower plane of existence as animals and so forth. What we teach children is the ethics that we can learn from each story. So you got to study the story very clearly and understand the ethics, moral that you can learn from the story, and then teach that children.
Thank you, Bhante. In the last discussion, Bhante used a simile in explaining impermanence as a mustard seed on a moving needle. Is the needle equivalent to rupa and the mustard seed equivalent to nama dharmatha? Could you please clarify?
Nama Dhamma. No?
She says,
Na,
is the needle equivalent to
Nama
rupa
Dharmata.
and the mustard equivalent to nama?
Yeah, Nama Dharmata. Uh, I was trying to explain not only name and rupa, nama rupa. I was trying to explain how quickly things change. I was not referring to any particular nama or any particular rupa, but everything is so quickly changing and so impermanent. I just want to show through this simile how impermanent things are. When things are impermanent, changing very quickly, you cannot hold on to that particular object. It can be mentality, materiality, either of them or both of them, internal, external, and so on. There are, you just have to experience it to see how quickly things change. That's what I wanted to emphasize.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante. Hmm. My question is about conditioning. At what stage of one's practice does one become aware of this conditioning you talked about yesterday? Can you please explain a bit more about how the additional conditioning works? Is it reflecting on the 11 ways you mentioned?
Oh, yes. In fact, you understand conditioning only as an adult, matured person when you pay attention to your experiences impartially, then you will see how many things affect your feelings, perceptions, thought, consciousness, and the body. All these are always affected by various factors, and they recondition this body. We said yesterday, I mentioned day before yesterday, Rupang rupataya sankatang abhisankaroti iti sankara. Rupang rupataya. The form is reconditioning for it is for it to be a form. I give you a crude example. When you have a beautiful hair and you are not satisfied with that, you want to do various things to your hair. People know what they do to their hair. And all these things they do to their hair are conditioning. In addition to the hair itself is conditioned. So you add more condition to make it more attractive. And all those things that you do to hair are called conditioners. They condition. Why? You want to make the hair presentable. So, rupang rupataya sankatang abhisankarunti, it means hair is a form, and this is already sankata, already made, came to existence through causes and conditions, and therefore they are conditioned thing, and you add more conditioning to make it to look even better. That is conditioning. So, form is reconditioned to look even better. Similarly, the skin, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and so on. I don't think we do much to do anything to tongue. But other things we recondition. All these are forms. And we, for instance, we eat food to keep reconditioning the wearing out part of this body. Inside and outside, internal or external. As you know, Atita, Anagata, Pachupanna, Ajnata, Vayada, and so on. Past, present, future, internal, external, gross or subtle, and so forth. All these are forms. All these forms You are not satisfied with them, or you cannot satisfy. And we also have to eat, drink, and so on to renew them. And things that we do to renew them also are called conditioners. What do they renew? Things that already is there. They are called conditioned. And those conditioned things we recondition every day. Breath, for instance, is a conditioner. What does it condition? It conditions the body. Renew the body always by bringing oxygen. And so forth. When you look at yourself impartially, you will see that you are doing things always to recondition your body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. And therefore Buddha described each separately. Rupang rupattaya sankatang abhisankaroti sankara. Vedanang vedanattaya sankatang abhisankaroti sankara. Sanyang sanyattaya sankatang abhisankaroti. Sankara sankarattaya sankatang abhisankaroti. Vijnanang vijnanattaya, and so on. Each and every aggregate, we reconditioning with thoughts. For instance, feelings. We do various things to recondition our feelings. We have one feeling, say for instance, you sit in a certain place, it is not comfortable, you get another one which makes you even more comfortable, and you get another one to make it even more comfortable, and so forth and so on. The clothes, food, and so forth we take always to recondition the feeling and perception, seeing, hearing, seeing if it is going to be weak, you have glasses or put lenses, do the surgery, cataract, and recondition the eyes. When we cannot hear well, we use hearing aids to recondition the hearing. And these are all called sankharas. Another very crude example you see, when somebody, you all have seen many hundreds and thousands of movies. You can see what the movie actors do, actors and actresses. Sometimes the actors and actresses act several ways in several different movies. Each time you even cannot recognize who this person is until you have studied and read and so forth. Otherwise, when the person comes to the stage and act, he acts in a very, suppose somebody wants to act like the president. So he has to put on various things and talk like him and smile like him and so forth, and then gives an appearance to the audience, oh, this is the president. This is how the president be, and so forth. Any person you act, what you call, you imitate that person. All those things that you do to deceive others. You cannot have two presidents, he is only one person. But you can act in a putting on various ways, changing the beard, having his bald head covered with little hair, and so forth. You can act. And all those things that we do to deceive us, deceive others, are called conditioners. So, sankatang abhisankara, conditioned, reconditioned to deceive others. That's called, movie is a very good example. Theater is a very good example. Acting is very good example. Sometimes you go to a stage and you practice what you call miming. There is no bicycle, and you pretend that there is a bicycle, and you pretend to cycling, and so forth. And all these things are called sankharas. All these that we do either to entertain others or deceive others or entertain or deceive ourselves uh, to this body is called sankharas.
Thank you, Bhante. Okay. Bhante, you spoke recently about recollection of previous lives. Since we are now in the present life, evidently we were not enlightened in previous lives. So, what is the interest in recollecting earlier lives? Is it not more beneficial to concentrate on understanding impermanence and recognizing greed, hatred, and delusion in our present experience?
I see. This is additional embellishment, additional qualification somebody wants to acquire. But they are not necessary, not absolutely necessary. What we have to do is to see this very moment, while I'm talking this very moment, what is happening to our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. In this case, this very moment, you focus your mind on your ears and your mind. If you can see my picture, also picture. They are changing. Your ears, definitely, this sound is vibrating. There are various type of neuron like rings in the ear, and this sound goes there and then goes to the brain, converts into words, and then again converts into words, and then converts into meaning, and then converts into understanding, and so forth. All these are processes and sound. That means sound is not one big, thick, solid object. It is sound, we call sound waves. Sound waves. Sound waves are not something permanent. Sound waves are appearing and disappearing, appearing and disappearing. Like that, all we have to understand is impermanence. The best thing in the Buddhist meditation that anybody who is really serious in insight meditation must understand impermanence. That is the most important thing, and not all these other supernatural powers, seeing previous lives or not seeing previous lives. These are not important. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante. I think we can save the other questions for the next
Okay.
session.
There are many more questions. I am glad that you asked this question to clarify your doubt. Wherever there is doubt, we must ask questions. That is how we learn to practice investigation of Dhamma, fact of enlightenment. The fact of enlightenment of investigation of Dhamma. This is how we have to do that. I encourage you to ask me or anybody more and more Dhamma questions, so that it will be it will open our insight and deepen our understanding and gain wisdom to attain liberation. With this note, I end this morning session, and I want to, as we started with metta, I want to end with our sort of benediction, wishing all these beings who are in pain and suffering this very moment be relieved from their suffering and return to their normal life. Some of those suffering persons are some of our friends, our relatives, and some people, some acquaintances, and others are unknown. And we want to wish all of them to be free from their pain and suffering. And there are many uh, people who, like doctors, nurses, hospital staffs, and so on, trying to help these people in their way. And they are very compassionate people. I want to wish them to be peaceful and happy and continue their wonderful service. And there are others who are suffering from grieving uh, for losing their dear ones. We all want to wish them to understand Dhamma. We always talk about impermanence, the truth, the nature of life. So we all are following that path, trying to understand, deepen our understanding. With this understanding, may they be able to return to their normal life. And there are others who are financially supporting, and some are working very hard to find a vaccine. And I heard some people have found some, and some are experimenting. And may they all continue their wonderful service to help human beings. There are some leaders, very nice, wonderful leaders who are trying to help people, making right decisions, insightful decision and understanding, and may they continue to do so. Other leaders may not be that quick. They are slow learners maybe, and so we want to wish them to have insight, understanding, and compassion for all beings, not particularly selected people. Have compassion for all beings and have a state of mind to make wise decision for the benefit of all beings. With this note, we want to end this morning session. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.